the eyes to see the best. I pray that you have the ears to hear the best as we fall back to present the Detroit Association of Black Storytellers, DABS, monthly story hour. Hi, I'm MCP Pamela, a teller from 2003, the former immediate vice president, and I am your host on today. And I'd like to invite you to subscribe. Click the button subscribe so that you'll be able to receive your monthly notification to join us right here every month on the fourth Friday at 7 p.m. And again, I'm so honored to be here with you on today. Today is a special day for us here at DABS. We're going to kick off our new season. Yes, we're celebrating season 3 by also including the celebration that's going around in mostly 37 states, which is Intergenerational Month. Now, Intergenerational Communications Month was designed back in 1987, founded so that we could better work on communicating amongst the different generations. They have been accepted, like I said, in about 37 states. They too, as well as DABS, are a 501c3 nonprofit, and it's been going on for years. As a matter of fact, the focus again is to better communicate amongst the different generations, such as last Sunday. As most of us may or may not be aware of, last Sunday was actually, Grandparents' Day. So happy Grandparents' Day, belated to each and every one of you. I am Grammy. So happy belated, Grandparents' Day. Actually, I also want to highlight the fact that the National Association of Black Storytellers and its local affiliates, such as DABS, we actually practice intergenerational telling 365 days a year. And that is so that we can perpetuate our history throughout the generations so that it would not be lost and it can continue on and on and on. And so it is the great Nellie Larson that said, and I quote, "We must forge our path to write our own stories. And so let it be written, and we must let it be said." And that's what's going to happen today. We're going to present some stories of our own, so we invite you to sit back, relax, and just enjoy the stories, as they are sure to empower, enlighten, and or entertain. Entertain, you say? Allow me. Now, picture this. Once upon a time, on a long, dreary night, some old friends decided to get together. A duck, a skunk, and a deer. They had to catch up on old times, and so it would be fitting for them to get together, have a nice meal. They decided on a place to go. They sat down, and oh my gosh, the conversation was splendid. And the food was just, it was divine. The conversations kept going, and at some point in time, check, please. It was time to pay for the meal. Well, they all looked at the skunk, and the skunk said, "Wait a minute, hold on. I don't have a cent." So now they looked towards the deer. And of course, he was with his headlights on. "Wait a minute, I don't have a buck." And so everyone was looking at the duck. And it was decided upon, yes, they will put the meal on the duck's bill. Okay? And so, there you have it. Now, one more thing I want to say before I bring up the next teller is, be careful of what you say and do in the garden. As you know, potatoes have eyes, right? Corn has ears. And the beans stalk. So, with that being said, our next teller here in the house this evening, it is Eddie. Eddie Sanders. Eddie Sanders is relatively one of our newer tellers, but he's not new to the telling game. Now, growing up shy as a kid, however, as time went on, he found his voice after serving in the armed forces. Now, while raising his family, he began telling the story that was told to him by his father, which was told to his father. So initially he started telling his children his stories of his grandfather and to pass it on from generation to generation. He also shared those very same stories as a former police officer. He would do that every now and then amongst the precincts to kind of help lighten up things throughout the day. He's also a former president of the International Family Relief Fund. And so there Eddie practiced devotedly sharing his stories to help center those in need spiritually. And so at this time, I'd like to introduce to some and present to others the Detroit Association of Black Storytellers 2021 member, Mr. Humanitarian himself, Eddie Sanders. Eddie Sanders with the red wagon, Eddie Sanders.
Hello, my name is Eddie. Back in the 1950s, when I was a child, about 7 years old, my mother told me that you're going to have to learn how to hustle. Okay, and in order to hustle back in that day, hustle means that you had to earn your own money. Well, the thing is that my sister was getting an allowance, and I didn't think that was fair, because the way I looked at it, me working was a different thing. But she explained to me that, you know, as a black male, this is something that you're going to have to do. This is something you're going to have to learn, because as a black male in our society at this time, black males have to work harder than anybody else in order to make it. So I said, okay. And my Aunt Jeanette, on my birthday, she gave me a red wagon. This was a beautiful red wagon. It had PF Flight on the side of it, and I could use it for a whole lot of different things. Well, my mother took me up to the Ridley supermarket, which was up on Gratiot. And I noticed that there was people up there taking people's groceries home. Okay, well, I thought about that for a minute, and I said, well, guess what? I could use my red wagon to take people's groceries home. And so what I did, the next day, I went up to Ridley supermarket with my red wagon. I told the people, well, look, you can pay me anything you want to. You don't have to pay me, but it would be nice if you did, and I will help you to take your groceries home. Anyway, okay, so that day, guess what? I didn't make a dime. So the next day when I came back now, I told her, well, hey, it's a minimum of a dime. You have to pay me at least a dime. Now, what most people don't understand, back in the 50s, inflation wasn't that bad. If you made $2, you were doing very well. And so what happened is that I was going back and forth, taking people's groceries back and forth, and at the end of the day, I wound up with $2. Now guess what? Back at that time, $2, you could buy a loaf of bread. You could buy, a loaf of bread only cost like 16 cents. A pop would only cost a dime. In other words, you could buy a whole lot of stuff for just $2. Well, I got home, and I was laying on the floor. I was eating my cakes and my pop, drinking my pop, and my sister was over there looking at me, and she was saying, hey, he's got $2. Where did he get all that money from? And Mama said, well, hey, the boy been hustling. Okay, then Mama said, you know something? You need to start paying some rent. So she took half of my money. And not only did she take half of my money, but she made me share with my sister. Now, I wasn't too crazy about that because, my sister's getting an allowance. She's getting 50 cents every week, and she's getting a quarter from my father. Well, anyway, after a while, my mother told me I need to go to the Goodwill and, buy some clothes for school, because school is getting ready to start. So I went to the Goodwill. I wasn't a slave to fashion because I'm 7 years old. Anyhow, I bought some shoes and some clothes. But the thing is that wintertime came, and the clothes that I bought wasn't that good. So by the time winter was over with, that clothes had worn out. My shoes had turned around backwards, and I was walking around, and my feet was getting wet and everything else. But then we moved. We moved from Shane over to Holcomb. Now, when we moved over to Shane to Holcomb, I couldn't go to the grocery store anymore. I had to find a new hustle. So down the street, there was a junk man. And the junk man, I would sell metal parts to the junk man. And that gave me a few dollars. And then I went in the alley, I found the old bike. The bike was just a frame. So I put the frame in the garage. And then eventually I found some wheels and I put them on the bike. And eventually what I did, I got a paper route. The same thing happened. Mama explained to me that as a man, this is something you're going to have to learn how to do. And so I did. And be frank with you, it really helped me in the rest of my life, because what happened, when you learn how to hustle, you had some money. And see, you always have a job, but you can also have a side hustle. And that's what really made me successful in life. Now, the moral of the story is this. You need to learn how to do different things in life, because what happens is that it's not always going to be easy for you. You have to learn how to do different things and how to adjust. Now, my next story is about Ben Turpin. Ben Turpin was a police officer starting from the 30s to 1959. Now, Ben Turpin was a black police officer in Black Bottom, or what you call Paradise Valley. Now, what happened, he worked in the 3rd Precinct. Now, the 3rd Precinct is located on Gratiot and Du Bois. Now, he had to walk. Now, he walked the beat from Gratiot and Hastings all the way back to Hastings and the Boulevard. And back at that time, they had what they call call boxes. They had radios in the cars, but he didn't have a car. And see, another thing, back at that time, black people were considered less than human. Okay, now here's the thing. Paradise Valley at that time, we had what they called a great migration. In other words, you had a lot of people coming up from down south, and they wanted to get these factory jobs. But there wasn't enough factory jobs to go around. And back at that time, these people, everybody was carrying guns because they didn't have these rules about guns. So people were shooting people. It was just like the Old West. And Ben Turpin was almost like a wide earth, because what happened, my father had told me about it, because what happened, I was on Willis and he would play checkers, and he was always talking about Two-Gun Pete from Hastings Street. Well, guess what? That Two-Gun Pete from Hastings Street was actually Ben Turpin. Now, Ben Turpin had 2 pearl handle revolvers on each side. He had a stick, a nightstick, and he had a bulletproof vest made out of metal. And he needed that because he was working all by himself. Now, he would walk that area, and you had some of the worst people in the world down there. And plus you had the Purple Gang that came through too. Now, the Purple Gang was actually charging protection for the business owners. Okay, now one day, one of the Purple Gang charged protection for the business owner, and Ben Turpin just happened to see that. Well, Ben Turpin was a tough guy. Now, he told this guy from the Purple Gang, look, you don't do that down here. This is my area, and you don't do that down here. Well, the white guy wasn't too crazy about that. You know what I'm saying? A black man telling him what to do. So he pulls a gun on Ben Turpin. Ben Turpin pulls his gun, and they have a shootout, and the white guy gets killed. Now, guess what? He just killed a white man. Now, back at that time, this is serious business. It's serious business today. But can you imagine what it would be like for you to kill a white man back in the 30s? Well, anyway, they had a trial, and he was exonerated because the guy had pulled the gun on him first. Okay, so he was exonerated, but then he had a little interlude with Coleman Young Sr. Now, Coleman Young Sr. back at that time had a little bit of pull. And what happened with him is that the newspaper got a hold to it, and Ben Turpin had beat him down because, like I say, Coleman Young had a gun and so forth like that. And so it was the kind of situation where he got a reputation as being a cruel cop. a brutal cop. Well, if you think about it, he had to be that way. Because in this situation, he's all by himself. And he's walking down there, and the white police officers are actually afraid to go down Paradise Avenue because it's all black folks. Well, at the end, about 1959, he retired. But the thing is that he had a bad reputation as being a brutal cop. And so when he retired, he did not retire with rank. He just retired as a police officer. And the thing is that, even his wife wasn't even able to sell any of his stuff. He was also retired in disgrace because they said he was a brutal police officer. But the thing is that in reality, he was a hero. Because you think about it for a minute. You down there all by yourself, and all you have is your 2 guns and your stick. And this is it. So I close with this statement just saying that this is the kind of situation, this is kind of like a history of some of our people and some of the things that have happened to us. Don't judge a book by its cover. Ben Turpin has actually done some good things in the neighborhood. He was a coach for Little League Baseball. He had donated a lot of money to the community. He was actually a pretty good guy outside of his police duties. But the thing is that the police department did not acknowledge him as such. So I'm going to close now, and I appreciate your attention. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Eddie. And that's Eddie Sanders. Let's give him some more love, guys. Appreciation. Yes, because Ben Turpin, wow. A legendary cop in Detroit, as you heard, that was obviously not a joke. Thank you, Eddie, again for giving us the real deal. Now, as we know, all stories aren't always going to have this wonderful, wonderful flavor. But it is necessary that we have all stories, because with all stories, it reminds us of the fullness of a full picture. And speaking of a full picture, can you picture this? Sicily, 1936. Actually, Detroit, 1976. And back in the day, everything was all about the Mac. The Mac this, Mac this, Mac C, Mac. We would say certain things like, what's happening? Oh, the Mac. Show me right. Y'all know. Come on now. Back there was just something about that Mac. Ooh, that brown pecan tan. It was so attractive. I think I even got caught up. As a matter of fact, I know I did. As I think back at that time, again, it happened to me. We would meet every day at the same cafe, 6:30. No one knew we were there, but really, it was more or less like 4 o'clock in the evening after school, right there at, West 8 Mile Road and Green Line. Y'all know the spot. We meet every day. And it's just that it was something about it smelled good, looking great, nice and fresh. Oh my gosh, I just had to get to know that harmonious trio. It was the Mac of all Macs. Again, day after day we had these encounters. My feelings began to get stronger and stronger. Could I be addicted to the Mac? My behavior said it was. I'm like, well, how could this have happened? How could I have allowed this abusive situation to continue? Recklessness happening to my body. Oh my gosh. It had got to the point where it registered 180 pounds. Now, at 5'9", back then, as much as like what I am right now, 180 pounds now is fine, but not at age 15. I had to do something about this. That 2-all beef patty special sauce, lettuce, cheese, onions, pickles on a sesame seed bun had to go. Woo! Yeah, we had to part ways, but it wasn't that easy. I tell you what I had to do. It took after maybe months of extensive, almost starvation and intensive workout, I had to get rid of that Mac. You know, loving of the Big Mac is wrong, and I had to get it right. Got it right. Yes, sir. Girl, I got it right. 36, 24, 36. Well, that was then. This is now. But you know what? You do better when you learn better. When you learn better, you do better. That's how it is. And so now that I know better, I make better choices. I prefer charcoal more. So I enjoy the Whopper. You know why? Because it takes two hands to handle the Whopper. Burger King. Listen, guys. Our next storyteller, last but not least, he's bringing up the rear. Okay? He's a veteran storyteller here at DABS that will tell stories in a masterful way. Yes, I'm speaking of none other than James Graham. James Graham is a storyteller that grew out of, reading his bedtime stories to his children, and now he's finding a major driving force to continue storytelling as a means of leaving a spiritual legacy, to his grandchildren. Now, James began telling in 1993 with trips to elementary schools. His career aspect of storytelling has included various venues such as churches, prisons, concerts, camps, funerals, and workshops. Now, if you listen closely, listen very closely to his stories, his hope is that you will experience his attempt to spirit whisper. So at this time, please help me welcome none other than James Graham, storyteller, with a teachable moment, James Graham.
Thank you very much. Tu la poesie, una musica. Tu la poesie, una musica. Tu la poesie, una musica. That's an old South African song. It's an East African song. The interpretation is, it's a song that the children sing. It's a song that the parents teach the children to sing, especially when they are a little nervous. Interpreted, the song says, "Be still my heart, for therein God dwells." When you think of it, the heart is the center of our being. It's what and who we are. It's what and who we are about. And when we think of those who have poured into our hearts, those who have made our hearts what it is, all we can do is say thank you. In honor of those who have poured into my heart, I want to do a little something. In West African culture, they call it pouring of a little libations. Now, before I go into this, I need a little, I guess I need a little help from the audience. When I say okay, I want you to say Ashe. You get it? Okay? Ashe. I like that. Y'all get that? Here's it. One more time. Okay? Ashe. In West Africa, when you think of it, actually, when we pour water into the plant, it feeds the plant. A plant takes in carbon dioxide, and it uses that carbon dioxide and the water and the sunlight, and it releases oxygen, which is life for us. which is life. It's an awesome. So when we pour into it, actually, we're feeding the planet. In the name of all of those who have poured into my hearts, who poured into my hearts the storytelling, the Oklahoma Pews, who poured into my hearts the love, my mom, my father, who poured into my hearts the history, the teachers who were going on behind me, and who poured into my heart and made me what and who I am as an athlete, for whatever that is, a storyteller, as an educator. I want to pour into this, and I say, okay, you say, I say. In the name of all of those who poured into your life, I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to call them out within your hearts. I want you to call those names out. Your grandparents, your parents, your aunts, your uncles, those neighbors, those friends. And then I want to say, okay. Thank you so very much. When I was about 9 years old, 8, 9, my father passed away. At that time, my mom, of course, was depressed. Understandably so. My sister, my mom, and I, we all moved to Danville, Virginia. That's where we stayed with Miss Gibson. Miss Gibson had a bottom apartment. Miss Gibson lived upstairs. And where we lived, there was a big room where we had one bed, and there was this big heater thing that came out in the middle. And there was another room, a kitchen, Mom, would go in there and wash. After Daddy died, Mama was kind of, like I said, she was quiet a lot, and she prayed a lot. Actually, she's just a praying woman. She just became a real praying woman. My sister was around 12 or 13. My grandma said she was at that stank age. You know what I'm saying? She was starting to smell herself, so to speak. And so my sister, my mom, they was kind of bumping heads just a little bit. And me being 8 and 9, I was just a little bit around everywhere. You see, my daddy, I was remembering so much. And my daddy used to be, he was a football coach and a basketball coach and a baseball coach. And a lot of times he would take me up to his to the high school, and during practice he'd give me a whistle. and if I blew the whistle, they had to stop. I was it. I was the referee. If Daddy made it, if Jim blew the whistle, it was it. That was it. And Daddy was always trying to. He did his little storytelling thing. He was always trying to make rhymes and stuff to kind of to really drive points home. He'd say, when it came to tackling, he'd say, what you do is you wrap them legs up, put your shoulders down, take that rascal to the ground. That was how to tackle. Wrap the legs up, put your shoulders down, take that rascal to the ground. And so I was always remembering those things. I used to kind of get off on that. Wrap the legs up, shoulder down, take that rascal to the ground. So I remember one morning after we moved to Danville, Mama had got up early. She was in there washing dishes and cooking breakfast. It was her way of praying. My sister stayed in the bed. We only had that one bed. My sister stayed in the bed. I kind of got up and I was in front of that little heater thing. It stuck out and had a little fire in there. And I was in my pajamas and I was saying, wrap your legs up, put your shoulder down, take them to the ground. That's what Daddy was in. I was telling my sister that. And my sister said, yeah. And then my sister, all right, wrap your legs up, turn around, take them, shoulder down, take them. I turned around, she said, Jim, you on fire. I said, what? And I looked up and my pajamas was just blazing on up. I was running, I said, ah! My mama looked in there with her praying self. She reached back and she poured up a bath mat. You should have seen Mama. Mama, she just kind of dived into the air with that mat. She took that mat, wrapped my legs up, she put her shoulders down, and she took me to the ground. And she put the fire out, just like that. And ever since then, you know what? I mean, it's kind of left an impression. It left a message to me. It left a serious message to me. And the message is this, you know, if you need a miracle, if a miracle is what you have to summon, never underestimate the power of a praying black woman. You should have seen her, boy. She wrapped my legs and put her shoulders down, and she took me to the ground. And she put the fire out. She put the fire out. Everything was all right, you know. You know, when you sit back and you look at those days and those times, you know, they kind of, I don't know, it's just something, the way those stories, you know, like some of those little messages and some of those, the way my daddy had the way of telling the stories. Now, for the most part, I tell stories, some would say in the tradition of the West African griot, some would say the Bela and Tegi, and some parts is called the Jetty, and some parts is called the Jolly. Now, in East Africa, they refer to them as the Mzi, the Mujizi, and they come with the Bakura staff. Yeah, you see, the East Africans, they have their own little flavor of stories. There is one particular story. It's the story of when giants walked among men. You see, in the Kikuyu lands, the Kikuyu themselves, they're tall, strong, handsome people. They're known for being long and slender and muscular. They're great, strong people. But among them, there walked a group of men that were a class all by themselves. When it came to being tall and statuesque and strong, these people compared to none other. They were called the Marimi. There were three groups of the Marimi. The first one was tall and strong. The musculature, defined muscles, all of them. And quite handsome, a lot of people would say. However, there was one distinguishing feature among that group. That was, they only had one leg. Now, how they emulated and got around, tradition says they hopped around with such great speed and ease all up and down the East African hills and the mountains. They could be seen zooming around the African hills and highlands. Now, the second group of Marimi, they were just as tall and just well defined with their musculature. However, their distinguishing feature was quite odd indeed. It was the fact that they had one eye. That one eye was right in the middle of the forehead. However, with that eye, it was said that they could see things that were very small at very great distance. Now, the third group of Marimi, now this was, well, kind of really the one that everyone watched out for. They were tall. They were strong, quite handsome, everyone would say. However, their distinguishing feature was they had two mouths. That second mouth, the first mouth was in the conventional place. The second mouth was right at the base of the neck, right where the hairline was. And it was a small mouth. Actually, it was a mouth that was very hard to spot. It's easy to cover up with the hair, and that's what they did. They would try to cover that mouth up with the hair. Now they loved insects. They were known for eating insects, and when they yawned, the second mouth would yawn too, and sometimes you would see the hair fly out. You always notice there were no insects. Now the thing with the Marimi themselves that made them dangerous, so to speak, they enjoyed eating people. They ate human beings. And the third group especially would try to mingle among the people, would try to, marry some of the young ladies so that later on they could eat them. Now, the elders among the Kikuyu, the elders, especially the men, were known for their ability to spot, especially this third group. They were very keen and always watching out. And the parents were always warning their young daughters, please, darling, watch out for this. And so they would, whenever there was a new young man, they would always consult the elders. That's kind of the way maybe it should be today. I mean, they should always check in with the elders. However, as time passed, in Kikuyu lands, when there is, and it's common in East African culture, when there are wars, and often in Kikuyu lands there are disagreements that come into wars. When there are disagreements among men, God becomes displeased, and so he withholds the rain. However, when Nyange Yezulu comes, and Nyange Yezulu, a peacemaker, and Nyange Yezulu, when he comes and he dispels the conflict and brings back the peace, God becomes pleased and he sends down the rain. So often they call the Nyange Yezulu the rainmaker. Because without rain, nothing grows. Well, as I said, it was common that in Kikuyu lands there were conflicts, and a conflict arose, and the rain was withheld. And this went on for seasons, quite a few seasons. Everyone began to suffer. Things got hard. The crops died. The animals were perishing. And then he came. In Nyange Yezulu. Now in Nyange Yezulu, he is much like the moon. You see, the moon does not make its own light. The moon reflects the light of the sun, and he reflects it back into places where there's no light at night. The moon does not make its own light. It reflects the light of the sun. In Nyange Yezulu, he doesn't reflect the goodness of himself, but he reflects the goodness of God himself and brings the peace, because peace is the presence of God. When peace comes, God is pleased, and the rain came, and when the rain came, everyone was happy. All of Kikuyu land began to celebrate. They all made a great celebration. It was right beside a special place next to the river. The water from the river made a special music, and because of this long drought that had been for so long, everyone wanted to become involved in the celebration. They were all ready for the celebration. The best drummers tuned up their drums. The best horn players, they all practiced, and everyone practiced their dance moves, and oh, it was going to be a great celebration. When they had all prepared for it, and the fierceness of the sun, when the sun had lost its fierceness, the celebration began. It was a great celebration this day. Everyone came. There were people from all around. Wanji was there. Wanji, she was a special young woman. She was quite tall herself and beautiful, and she had become of the age where she had started looking at the young males, and all of the males, everyone had oiled themselves up and put that special paint on them, and they all had the bracelets and the earrings, and they were all dancing. And Wanji noticed, well, everyone noticed, a certain young gentleman. He was tall. He was muscular. And he was so coordinated. He could jump so high. He was as light as a leopard. And when he would dance, all of the women, they all said, "Whoa." Everyone began to say, "Wow." Everyone was staring at this young man. No one knew who he was. And so they began to talk. Who is this person? Who is this person? And then the buzz that became the buzz that became all of the gossip said that, we think his name is Moima. He's the son of Wakobi. Yeah, he's from a great clan. He has many goats and many sheep and much cattle. Everyone began to talk about it, and all of the young ladies, whenever they saw him, they began to dance seductively, and they wanted to stare. The young man said, "You don't know him." But Moima, she saw him, and she did her thing, because the guy was built, buff, like that. And so Moima did something. Wanji did her thing. And Moima, he noticed her. And he began to dance in front of her. And after a while, as the evening went on, they began to talk. She thought his voice sounded like an evening rain. It sounded like the bitter of eve. She loved the sound of his voice. And as they talked, she really began to enjoy his company. He had such a smile in his eyes. And Moima, he fell into Wanji's eyes. The two were enamored, I tell you. The two were enamored. And so finally, Moima, he asked Wanji, I want you to come and to meet my family. I want you to come and meet my mom. This was something. She says, yes, let's do this now. Let's go now. And Wanji, she agreed. She knew she was not doing what was traditionally thought of as right. Consulting first your parent. However, she liked this guy. He looked good, and he was fine. So she went off with him, and they walked through the night into the next day, and they talked the whole time, and he was such a gentleman the whole time. And just before he turned up under an acacia tree, and he says, "Oh, Wanji, I have something I must tell you." And she says, "What is it?" She says, my mom, her eyes failing her, and she cannot see as she should. I want you to stay here under the tree and wait while I go ahead and to clean up our manana, our yard, and to make the place neat for you, and to tell my mom you're coming. Wanji thought this was nice. He was a considerate guy. And that is what happened. However, if Wanji had seen what he was really doing. The words of this story would not really be coming to human ears, because what Muima was doing was he went into the yard and he was cleaning up human bones. Bones that they had set out to dry so that they could make soup. Human soup. Well, he cleaned everything up and he told his mom and he went back and he got Wanji. And she came and she met his mom and his mother made for Wanji a dish of lamb and goat. It was quite delicious. And that night, Wanji stayed at the hut. And Muima, he went to his hut. And later on, the next day, he showed her so many things, so many beautiful places. And she was captivated by it all. And finally, he told her, he says, let's not wait any longer. Let's get married. That is just what Wanji wanted to hear. And so she agreed, yes, my darling, we shall get married. And in no time flat, a little wrinkled old holy man appeared and he married the two. And it was all happening so fast. It was all happening so fast. But Wanji told Muima, I've been here for a few days now. And I noticed you never eat with me. Why don't you eat with me? Muima says, it is because, Wanji, my father was a medicine man. My father said a curse was put upon our family, and because of that curse, the men are not to eat around the women. Well, Wanji accepted that. And one day, when Muima had come back from hunting, Wanji had been sitting in front of her home making a basket. Muima sat down and he says, I am so tired. And he yawned, and out of the corner of her eye, Wanji noticed when he yawned, a hoarse little noise came and hair lifted behind his neck. He was a Marine. She could not believe it. She began to stare even more, and she noticed that there were no flies or mosquitoes flying around him. He was definitely a Marine. She knew she was in trouble. She began to get very cautious. And Muimi says, I will be back later. Wanji began to pray. Oh God, help me. And then she began to walk around, and she heard a noise. It was Kikuyu people. The Kikuyu people were off. You see, there was a group of Kikuyu raiders who were looking for some Maasai who had stolen their goats and sheep. Well, Wanji knew that this has to be the key. When Muima came running back, he says, who was the people? What happened? What happened, Wanji? What happened? And Wanji told Muima, there are some Kikuyu raiders in the bush. They are looking for the Maasai who stole some of their sheep. Muima was happy. He says, this is good. I will go out tonight and find some of these Kikuyu raiders. And I will kill them and I can have me more meat. Well, Wanji told them that they went to the south. However, in truth, the raiders went to the north. Wema ran out into the south that night. And that night, Wanji took all of her belongings and she ran to the north. And each intervals and hours, she would make that Kikoya sound that all Kikoya warriors, all the Kikoya land know. It's the sound of the owl. Kikoya heard her, and they came back and they found her. And Mwanji, she told of her tale. She told her what had happened, and they all marveled. And they sent her back to her homeland with a guard. And she made it back, and she was welcomed back to her home, her family. Oh, they welcomed her as if someone had returned from the dead. And Wanji, well, she told everyone the story. And later on, she married again, and she had many children. And the story of Wanji is told to each of the children to remind them that before you go off chasing some fine young brother, it is always good first to check out with your mother. The cock crowed, the bird flew as of now. That story is true. Now, as I end here, I want you to remember this. When the Creator made the world, He put differences in every tree, plant, animal, and season. He did that for a purpose, for each one of us. He has His own special reason. So hear what I say next and hold it in your heart, because this is true. Every life is precious, including the one God gave you. Now a lot has been said, and I hope it was all understood. All that's left for me to say is, y'all be good. The story.
Well, all right. Ooh, thank you, James. Oh my gosh, wow. The giants among the people, an East African tale told by the master himself. Let's give him some more love. Come on, guys. Now, follow behind James. Okay, here we go. Ralph H. Lewis. Anyone familiar with him? Well, according to Ralph H. Lewis, there were 3 monkeys in a coconut tree. They were discussing things that should be. Now, one monkey said, listen here, you two. There's a rumor going around that can't be true. Well, man claims that they descended from us. Well, that's discussed. He couldn't have descended from us, from our noble race, while the very idea is a disgrace. No monkey ever deserted his wife, starved his babies, and ruined, her life. Whoever heard of a mother monk having her baby for someone else to bunk, passing him from mother to mother until the child scarcely would know his own mother? Now, there's something else you will never see. A monkey build a fence around a coconut tree. Why? If I build a fence around a coconut tree, it will force you, yes, starvation, will force you to steal, from me. And here's something else that you would never see a monkey ever do, which is to go out on a Saturday night, get up on a stoop, take a gun, a razor, or a knife, try to take another monkey's life. Oh no. Man, yeah, he did descend that honorary cuss, but he's the dang sure did not descend from us. Well, that's all I have for this evening, folks. That concludes our program. Now, first, let's give some thanks to all the tellers. Let's give you guys one for times. Yeah. You know, I truly cannot think of a better way to celebrate intergenerational communication than through actually telling stories. It's a fabulous way, it's an enjoyable way, it's a momentum way. You know, again, we need to give more thanks. We want to thank our behind-the-scenes crew. You guys, you know, anytime something is presented, yeah, thank you. We really do appreciate all that you do to make this come to what it can be. We also want to give thanks, appreciation also to the Hannah Center. This is a fabulous Hannah Center, and we want to thank them for allowing us to present on today. Come out and give your support to the Hannah Center. They're located actually here at 47, and that is 50 Woodward Avenue, right here in the city of Detroit. Now, last but not least, certainly, a special thank is to be given to each and every one of you. Yes, we could not do this without you. We want to thank you, yes, for tuning in on today and for listening to our stories. And we certainly hope that you've enjoyed what you've heard today. And in fact, listen, now, if you have enjoyed today's stories as well as the stories from the past, we ask that you give your support. Go out to our PayPal page and donate, and or become a member. You can do that by going to our website, Detroit Association of Black Storytellers.com, and sign up. You can also view some of the past performances for our programs in the past there, and you can also see what's coming in the next couple of months before the year is over with. So please go out and do that, and I'm sure that you'll enjoy our site and the various pictures thereof. Well, again, I am P. Pamela Atella, an immediate former vice president of the Association of Black Storytellers and one of the new hosts for the new season 3. I'm bidding you all a very good night, and most of all, God bless.